Gerard Butler, a name that roars through Hollywood like thunder. The man who shouted, "This is Sparta!" and redefined strength, not just with muscle, but with heart. Born in Paisley, Scotland, Gerard's journey began in the shadow of absence. His father left when he was just 18 months old. For 14 years, silence filled their home, a silence that taught him pain, patience, and power. His mother, Margaret, worked endlessly, her love the only warmth in that cold Scottish flat. At 16, when Gerard finally met his father again, he broke down, tears of years long buried. But destiny is cruel. Just when he found him, cancer took his father away forever. From that heartbreak, a fire was born. He studied law, chased dreams, fell, rose, and kept fighting. He battled addiction, survived a near-fatal crash, and lost his home to fire. Yet nothing could destroy him. Because Gerard Butler was never just an actor. He was a survivor. The warrior of 300, the soul of resilience. Today, at 55, he faces quieter battles, the kind that wound the heart, not the body. And through it all, one truth remains. Some men become legends not because of fame, but because pain couldn't break them. The winter of 1992 carried a young man away from Scotland, not toward a dream, but away from despair. Gerard Butler, only 23, boarded a train with a law degree in his hand and failure in his heart. Just a week before qualifying as a lawyer, he was fired for drinking too much at the Edinburgh Festival. One mistake ended years of struggle. He didn't know it then, but that loss would become his turning point. London was cold, unforgiving, and indifferent. He arrived with a few coins, a small suitcase, and a heart bruised by shame. Nights were spent on friends' couches, when he was lucky. Other nights, he walked till morning to escape the bite of the wind. Hunger became a familiar ache, pride his only armor. He sold toys on street corners, waited tables, worked as a telemarketer. Anything to survive. The future King Leonidas once stood in the rain selling plastic swords to strangers, smiling through exhaustion, while hiding pain behind that smile. But fate, it seems, waits for those who refuse to quit. A woman from his youth theater days, now a casting director, offered him a job as her assistant. One day she took him to an audition for Coriolanus. He wasn't meant to perform, but desperation can be louder than permission. Gerard begged to read a few lines. When he spoke, years of hunger, loneliness, and heartbreak came pouring out. Director Steven Berkoff saw something raw and real, a man who wasn't acting but surviving. He was cast immediately. From that moment, Gerard's rise began. Small roles followed. Mrs. Brown, 1997, a brief appearance in Tomorrow Never Dies. He was invisible to most, but not for long. His first leading role came with Dracula 2000, which flopped. Critics doubted him. He stayed silent and kept working. Then came The Phantom of the Opera, 2004, a role that demanded vulnerability, not violence. He wasn't a trained singer, yet he gave everything. His voice cracked, his throat bled, but his heart never failed. The film earned 3 Oscar nominations and gave him redemption. And in 2007, the world heard his roar. "This is Sparta!" As 300 shattered box office records and turned Gerard Butler into a global icon. But fame, like fire, burns as much as it lights. Behind the warrior's glare stood a man shaped by silence, loss, and survival. A boy from Paisley who learned that sometimes rock bottom isn't the end, it's where legends begin. Over the next decade, he refused to fit in any box. He danced between genres. Then came 2007, a year that reminded him how thin the veil between laughter and loss could be. On the set of P.S. I Love You, during a simple dance scene, a metal suspender clip critics once dismissed some of his biggest efforts as too loud or too safe. But Gerard Butler never stopped. "I still remember what it felt like to have nothing," he once said, eyes lowered. That memory, the hunger, the fear, the gratitude, became the heartbeat of every role he played. By 2025, over 2 decades after his blink and you miss it cameo in Tomorrow Never Dies, Butler returned as stoic in the live-action How to Train Your Dragon. The film earned over $519 million, pushing his career box office past $3.2 billion worldwide. Yet when asked about success, he only smiled. It's not about the numbers anymore. It's about being proud of what I gave. From a failed lawyer to a Hollywood icon, Gerard built his legacy not on luck, but endurance. His voice has deepened, his hair has turned gray, but the fire behind his eyes still burns. The boy who once sold toys in the rain became a symbol of grit and grace. But that glory came at a cost, one carved into his flesh. Every victory left a scar. For Gerard, greatness didn't come from trophies or applause. It came from bruises, broken bones, and sleepless nights. To the world, he was the roaring king of Sparta, immortal, invincible. But behind the camera, his body paid the price for every battle fought in the name of art. In Lara Croft, The Cradle of Life, 2003. While filming an action scene, he accidentally fired a prop gun. The bullet missed Angelina Jolie's face by just an inch. He laughed it off, but later admitted, "That was the first time I realized how fragile control really is." 3 years later, on Butterfly on a Wheel, he wasn't so lucky. During a rooftop chase, a stunt went wrong. The Range Rover slammed him into a wall, crushing his hip and neck. "My body was already falling apart from 300, he later said. That crash just finished the job, because 300, the film that made him a legend, nearly destroyed him. The training was brutal. 25 pull-ups, 50 deadlifts, 50 push-ups, 50 box jumps, 300 reps a day. Out of 50 men, only 17 completed the program. Butler tore a tendon, crushed a nerve, and developed foot drop, his leg dragging behind him like a shadow of the pain he carried. Yet every morning he showed up again. Every day someone went to the hospital, he recalled quietly. Sometimes it was me. Then came 2007, a reminder of how thin the line between laughter and loss can be. On the set of P.S. I Love You, a metal suspender clip snapped during a scene and struck Hilary Swank's forehead, knocking her unconscious. Butler, still in costume, dropped to his knees in panic, sobbing. "I thought I'd really hurt her. Broke me," he confessed. But nothing compared to what came in 2011. While filming Chasing Mavericks in Northern California, a 20-foot wave swallowed him whole. His board shattered, his lungs filled, and light disappeared. "I remember thinking, this is how it ends." A rescue jet ski found him moments from death. The painkillers that saved him nearly destroyed him next. By 2012, he was addicted, but instead of hiding, he walked into the Betty Ford Clinic himself. "Painkillers saved me once," he said, "but then they almost took me away." For 3 weeks, he fought his hardest war. No cameras, no crowd, just sweat, fear, and withdrawal. When he walked out, sober, scarred, and quiet, Gerard Butler was no longer chasing fame. He was chasing peace. He had learned that survival wasn't about strength. It was about surrender. For decades, he had built a life out of impossible men. Heroes who never broke, never wept, never lost. But behind those steel eyes and bulletproof smiles was a man who had tasted more pain than applause. Bruce Willis had once been the face of American grit, the everyman who defied death with a smirk and a punchline. Yet time, that silent assassin, had its own script for him. When the lights dimmed and the crowds faded, he was left with something far more fragile than fame, his own body. By 2017, after Geostorm, the action star everyone thought was unshakable began to feel trapped inside his own skin. Years of stunts, exhaustion, and untreated pain had left him searching for relief. That's when he tried bee-venom therapy, a bizarre but promising alternative meant to heal chronic pain. But instead of healing him, it nearly killed him. The venom entered his bloodstream like wildfire. His throat closed, his chest locked, his vision went white. For seconds that felt eternal. He hovered between two worlds, the fading pulse of life and the quiet, cold pull of death. The man who had fought fake villains on screen now fought the real one within himself. When he woke, the world felt different. The ceiling above him wasn't just a hospital roof. It was a mirror. He had seen what lay beyond the curtain, and realized that everything he'd chased might not have mattered. For years he had lived for applause, for the rhythm of cameras clicking, for scripts that made him feel immortal. But mortality had finally caught up, and it had a human face. He understood now that survival isn't victory, it's a kind of grace. Recovery was slow. His body was heavy, his speech slower, his memory sometimes fading. But through that stillness, something inside him began to awaken. The noise of fame had always drowned out his silence. Now, in this forced quiet, he started to listen, to the hum of his own heart, to the faint laughter of his daughters, to the whisper of time. He began writing again, not scripts or lines, but letters. Letters he would never send, to his younger self, to the friends lost to ego, to the family he had missed while chasing roles that made strangers love him. In those unsent words, he found peace. There was a time when he believed that being unbreakable was power. Now he knew that breaking and rebuilding, again and again, was where real strength lived. His home no longer echoed with parties or producers. It echoed with piano notes from his daughter's room, with the soft sound of wind against the glass, with the gentle rhythm of normalcy. For the first time, he wasn't acting. He was just being. He had seen the rise, the glory, the flashbulbs, the envy, the million-dollar paychecks, and the tabloids. But he had also seen the loneliness of being a legend. Fame, he realized, isn't love. It's attention wearing a mask. People cheered his name but never saw the cracks in his soul. They adored the man on the poster, not the one who sat awake at 3 a.m., wondering if any of it still mattered. He used to run from that silence. Now he sat inside it like an old friend. His wife once said that there was a gentleness in him that the world rarely saw. In his final years, that gentleness became his anchor. He laughed softer, spoke slower, hugged longer. The man who once played gods of action now lived like a monk of gratitude. Every breath felt borrowed, every sunrise a gift he almost missed. He had learned that love was louder than applause, that family was a stronger script than fame. Even as his health declined, he kept showing up, not on sets, but in life. For his kids' birthdays, for quiet dinners, for simple moments that once slipped through his fingers. And though his words sometimes faltered, his eyes said everything, that he had made peace with the man in the mirror. There were days he forgot lines, places, even faces, but never love. It stayed, gentle, constant, unshaken. His family surrounded him with silence, not the heavy kind, but the kind filled with understanding. Because love doesn't always need words, it just needs presence. As the illness deepened, his world grew smaller but somehow brighter. The house by the ocean became his universe. The sound of waves became his dialogue. The light on the walls changed with the hours, painting stories only he could see. He often sat near the window, eyes half closed, lips curled in a faint smile. To an outsider, it looked like stillness, but inside it was freedom. He once told a friend, "I've played so many roles that I forgot who I was." But now, stripped of all characters, he found the simplest role, the man who survived. Not because he fought, but because he surrendered. Surrendered to love, to time, to the truth that no one stays invincible forever. When the industry whispered about his silence, calling it retreat, they were wrong. It wasn't retreat, it was return. He had finally returned to himself. To the father, the husband, the man behind the smirk. He no longer chased immortality through movies. He found eternity in small moments. And maybe that's what it means to live fully. Not to be remembered for how loudly you roared, but how gently you loved. In a world obsessed with winning, he had discovered the quiet beauty of letting go. In the end, Bruce Willis didn't fade. He transformed. He became a lesson carved into the hearts of millions who grew up watching him fight impossible odds. He showed that real courage isn't surviving explosions or bullets. It's facing yourself when the lights go out. The hero who once saved the world on screen had saved something far greater off-screen, his soul.